Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. Anthony, we just wrapped up our interview with a client of ours, Jason Jasper. He was able to share his story and his perspective on infinite banking and the process. Anthony, what was the takeaway or two that you had?
Well, I tell you, the first takeaway is honestly, I'm looking to solve some of these rumors that I'm hearing about how you run your meetings. And this is the first time we'd interviewed one of your clients. So I actually have a list of a few rumors I've heard that goes on when somebody meets with you. So each time I'm going to be asking those questions. And here, let me just say, this rumor turned out to be true. Okay, but you're just going to have to listen to the question. It's about halfway in. But in all seriousness, I always like to hear from a different perspective on why somebody looked at infinite banking and what some of their history was before. And he had shared that he had met with a traditional financial planner, and the advice was very different. And also, I think the position of where he's at now is very different. From working with Cameron, as opposed to working with someone more of a typical financial planner, particularly when it comes to the kids. And I think that he was very active in with his kids. And I also thought it was interesting how he shared. He's like, "Hey, I'm not an all-in Dave Ramsey guy. I mean, I like some things of Dave Ramsey. I also like some things of Robert Kiyosaki. However, there's things on each side that I don't really care for, or maybe I'm not all in with." So I think it's great to get that information, and you find like whatever speaks to you and kind of whatever is going to help you achieve your goals and what you're most comfortable with. Um, it was also cool how sharing he was about this information. I mean, he really wasn't gaining anything. He's not selling anything. And he also is willing to share his contact information. What I'm gonna, which that will be in the show notes, but also he's an active user in our private Facebook group. And that's open, not just anybody who's willing to learn, wants to learn about infinite banking and ways to create passive income. So feel free to join. That link will be in the show notes as well. But here's an opportunity where you can ask Jason, or maybe even some other ones of our clients and other people doing infinite banking. Cam, what was takeaway or two that you had?
Man, you had like 6 there.
I know.
Yeah, that was a long
I
list.
know there's another one. Hopefully you hit it. Or...
A couple takeaways I had. One was for me the biggest. Man, he's done a lot of great things. There's 2 things that jumped out to me. One was kind of just seeing Jason. I look back at my notes when I first met him and we first started talking of where he was financially and kind of where he is now. And now he talks about kind of the peace of mind that he has. And then in the interview, also he talks about the kind of pit that he had in his stomach going through kind of some of the turmoil that he was going through before. And man, I'm just so happy to see kind of where he is and where the family is at this point. But even more so is to see kind of what he has done for his kids. His girls are absolutely dialed in on budgeting. They know exactly where every dollar is coming in, every dollar is going out. I say this interview, but man, that is, kudos, accolades to Jason for doing that. That doesn't happen by accident, right? There's intentionality that happens with that, and so great to see. And again, man, I'm just happy to have him on and happy to share his story with our listeners.
You know what? One thing he also shared was, we talked about the shiny objects. There's so many different ways to create passive income, and he shared a couple things he had evaluated and how he was able to make the decision to dial in on one.
Yeah, great. Hope you guys enjoy this interview. Again, this is our interview with one of our good friends and clients, Jason Jasper. And again, hope you guys enjoy this interview.
Take care.
If you're an investor or want to be an investor and you're looking to create passive income that exceeds your monthly expenses, then this is the podcast for you. Here on the Infinite Wealth Podcast, we combine the philosophies of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, along with Nelson Nash's infinite banking concept. Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. And today we've got a special guest. I've had the pleasure of getting to know this guy over the last couple of years, but for our listeners, we get to introduce Jason Jasper to you guys today. Jason, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here.
I'm excited to have you here because, man, your journey that you've been on has been pretty great and very exciting. I've had a front row seat to it the last several years, and so, man, we look forward to having you kind of share your stories with our listeners, man. So let's get this thing kicked off, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, appreciate it. As Cameron mentioned, I was introduced to the infinite banking concept just a few years ago. I think I stumbled upon the podcast online. Always a serial entrepreneur from very early on. Have done just about every job and any other extra job that I could do to get out of doing jobs. And ambitiously lazy. I'll do a bunch of work to get out of work. So I'm always working for that. And a few years, I think, or just before, I stumbled into the infinite wealth stream. I was introduced into land flipping and had a buddy teach me a little bit about buying lots and stuff through tax sales. Picked up my first few for I think my first three lots for 150 bucks, 50 bucks a piece. The minimum, nobody else bid on them, so they're mine. And within a few months of taking possession of the deed, I sold my first one for 700 bucks, and
Nice.
I was hooked. I was like, this is amazing. This is, I didn't hardly do nothing. I threw an ad up on Facebook and on Craigslist, and just started working and snowballing it from there. And since then, I've purchased a total of, since this was 2000 when I started my journey there,
Mm.
purchased a total of 28 ish properties, and currently have a few up for sale, a few active deeds that pay me 400 something bucks a month in passive income. And through the journey of listening to the Infinite Wealth podcast, I've been had my eyes open to so many more opportunities, ways to get my own personal finances in order. There's always a great book, always a teaching opportunity, something I don't know, something I need to investigate more. And over the last just a couple of years, have been able to take the Infinite Wealth model and use our life insurance, our kind of becoming our own bank, as it were, use that to eliminate all of our commercial debt, and just wipe that into our own. It's not exactly gone yet, but now being rolled into policy loans, I'm not paying Visa, MasterCard 20-30% anymore. I'm actually using a tool that is benefiting my family for the long run. And through you, as you know, Cameron, through your guys' coaching and assistance, we've been able to start with a few policies on myself, get policies for both of our daughters rolling, and now we've got them into the system, and actively using their policy loans to invest in assets. And more
Mm.
recently, got another policy as we are starting to max out some of these. Got another policy for my wife, and yeah, through the whole chain of events of investing and working in the property space. I was also introduced to Scott Jelinek of the slow flip program, which you guys had recently, which is a great interview there. And have started with him beginning of, or actually towards the end of last year, got started. The property flipping, or the land flipping escapades allowed me through the years to pay for multiple training classes in different areas. I did an Airbnb class. I got in touch through your podcast with the Land Geek, and started in theirs, paid for their training, and learned a whole bunch there. And then recently paid for the Slow Flip Training Academy, and as of, I think, February of this year, I purchased my first Slow Flip.
Mm.
And as of just about a month ago, not even a month ago, that one is free and clear, paid off, and now is just going to be paying us, theoretically for 30 years, or until they pay off the house. And then last month we purchased our second slow flip, and working on chiseling that down as fast as possible. And I should say, if you back up even before my land and slow flip real estate journey, back in 2007, 2008. and I'm getting better about that because I can actually say those words without feeling nauseous,
Mm,
anymore. Those dates, but around that time, I was following a lot of advice from a lot of people, and really just leveraged to the hilt and thought I was being smart financially, and then that downturn in the economy proved otherwise, proved that I didn't know what I didn't know. And I needed to seek out some advice from people who had the fruit on the tree, and that began a really long journey of getting my family's financial house in order, getting completely out of debt, and moving down that road. And then so now I kind of see myself as a little bit of a cross between Dave Ramsey and Robert Kiyosaki. So I'm not comfortable on, on either side of that spectrum.
mhm.
But somewhere in the middle where I'm very debt averse, very risk averse. So what you guys, preach and teach through the Infinite Wealth podcast about the government sponsored programs, I'm very, very leery about that stuff. I think when we told it up, my wife and I, during that downturn in market conditions or whatever, lost north of 150,000 in just overnight. It just, all this make believe numbers, and it just vanishes, it evaporates. And so we wanted to really focus on something that was real, and so since then we've been able to recoup, get out of commercial debt, get ourselves to a point where we are purchasing, cars for cash, stacking away in every corner of our investment house that we can, and then again, like I said, teaching our girls to do so as well. They're now 18 and 21,
Mhm.
and are both active investors in both of these houses as well as in some of the land, and it's all they can do to scrape together more money because they want to jump in on the next one. They're starting to become hooked. It's playing Monopoly in real life, and they can see how it can benefit them for years to come. Right? They both just want to be wives and moms, and but at the same time, they kind of want to have a little bit of that Proverbs 31 woman wisdom, where
Mm.
they're helping their financial house. That it's not all strictly onto the husband to make everything work, but that they're being wise right now before there's any prospects on the horizon, and they're able to set their house in order ahead of time, and skills that I wish I had had at 18, 20 years old. I just telling people I'd be dangerous if I knew half of what they know now. But yeah, through this whole, I just can't say thank you enough to you guys for the Infinite Banking podcast, and the skills and the resources and the recommendations that have led our financial education down the path that it is now, and we're excited to see where it goes from here. So I don't know if I've rambled on enough and
No, I tell
given you enough information.
honestly, you've done great, and I have a bunch of questions, but I see
Yes, please.
Cameron with his six gun loaded. So Cameron, go shoot away.
Jason, man, thanks. We got a lot to unpack right there.
Great.
Man,
Fantastic.
great overview. If you don't mind, I was gonna jump back to the point that we first met,
Yeah.
right? As you mentioned, kind of your personal financial situation, if you wouldn't mind, and then maybe some of the advice that you were getting at the time. You alluded to that. I don't
Mhm.
know if you
Yeah.
remember any of those examples, but maybe give our listeners an overview of where you were and some of the bad advice you were getting at the time.
Yeah, for sure. The bad advice number one is, items that are in the stock market are safe and secure, right? If you look at this trajectory, you look at this 30-year graph, you look at whatever, you can see that it always goes up, right, over time. And unfortunately, a lot of people I know personally, who were planning on retiring in 2007, 2008, 2009, saw their retirement secure, their safe, secure retirement cut in half, and now all of a sudden that retirement is gone. And that's why I say I love Dave Ramsey, love the ideas that he puts forth, and the caution and the help that he provides to people, and definitely a valuable service. But to preach that you can put all of your eggs in the basket of safe, secure mutual funds, and everything will be all right in 30 years or 50 years, and completely ignoring the fact that you have to, you're essentially have to time your retirement with the market and hope you have another 10 years to pull back out of that. is, I think it's damaging, and it's something we need to be careful of and educate ourselves on. Another bit of bad advice that we followed uh, was, hey, real estate, your house, right? Your house is an investment. Uh, I don't know about you guys, but my primary residence has never once cut me a check for anything. So it's not an investment. It is an, excuse me, it's not an asset. It's not an investment. It is for somebody else. It is for the bank,
Yeah.
but it's not for you. And to to have had that information to begin with was a little damaging to our financial mindset and practices. And then just the idea, yeah, that, oh, it'll, not only is it an asset, but it's always going to go up in value. Same thing. We see people um, one after another just using their house like an ATM, and assuming that that money's always going to be able to be pulled out, and it does a lot of damage uh, to our economy as far as a nation as a whole, but also to individual family economies, where people end up in a bad spot. And that's where I lean further away on the investment and on the personal finance side, where I would lean the other way, away from a Kiyosaki type standpoint, where the preaching of the more debt you have, the that's a sign of your wealth. And I'm just I where I find myself somewhere in the middle is, you can't. Yes, passive income cash flow is fantastic, but you can't pay for that peace of mind that debt freedom has. That the debt freedom offers you. And with for example, with this first slow flip house, the idea that it is free and clear and there's not a penny owed on it, and yet it's still a passive option for income for us is like nothing else I've ever experienced. So it really just locks away a lot of those um, bad bits of advice that we were taught early on. Um, the idea of, well, everybody's going to be in debt. Well, you always finance a car. Everybody does it. Just really took a lot of the old thinking that I was schooled with from the time I was a kid until my mid to late 20s or whatever. I'm losing track of the dates now. But just kind of put them all away. Gave solid fact-based answers to why we were experiencing a lot of the problems that we were having, and gave us hope and a roadmap for the future. So then by the time you and I met, and the infinite banking thing came in, it was really like a missing piece to the puzzle, that like an engine we could strap onto this car we were building, that helps it just get turbocharged and get down the track. So it really was a perfect fit, and I think God orchestrated it all for a perfect timing in the Jasper household, for sure.
Now, Jason, where were you getting your financial advice at that time?
From paid, a lot of it from paid financial advisors, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, I guess. The folks that were supposed to be the experts, but as I come to grow and study finances and learn, these guys are getting they're getting paid whether or not your account does well or not, right? They're getting paid for initial deposits. They're getting paid
Hmm.
monthly kickbacks on an um, overall bucket. And really, when you look at some of those guys, look at the fruit on the tree. Some of these guys are busting their butt trying to work just like we are, and they don't have financial security themselves. And it was really fun when you walk into one of these guys' offices, and I'm 10 to 15 years his senior, and he's schooling me on the long term. This is what's going to happen. This is what happens with the market, and it always goes up. And I'm like, man, it's heartbreaking that you don't know what you don't know. And as the saying goes, some of what you do know just isn't so, right. you
Hmm.
you have to get right information from people who have the fruit on the tree, which is what I've been really. And I'm not perfect, and I'm sure that I've got a lot of misconceptions, a lot of preconceived notions of how things work, or the best way to do A, B, and C. But I'm really trying to educate myself, as well as our children and anyone who we help with their finances, on that whole fruit on the tree principle. Go to somebody who has the results you want, and then copy exactly what they did. Don't worry about what you believe used to work over here. You need results. What actually does work, and then a roadmap that you can put into play based on those results.
Well, Jason, one thing I'm hearing is that you should get advice from people that have been successful from what you're doing,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
from what you want. Typical financial planners are really great salesmen. I mean, I'm not so worried about, we all need to get paid, but like we look at what they're telling you to do and the advice they're giving you when they don't have much track record. And Jason, when you had I saw that when you had mentioned about your kids getting involved, like I could see you lighten up, right?
Yeah,
And
sure.
as a proud father. But I'm curious if you would have followed the advice you had gotten from the typical financial planners. Do you think you'd be would your kids have been involved as they are now?
I definitely don't think so. My girls were born in '03 and '06,
Mm-hmm.
and right after that, everything, our whole financial house of cards came tumbling down. So it was a time where I'm like, I don't even know, what's going to happen going forward. And if we had not, and I really do look back and give all the credit and glory to the Lord for that time. The timing exactly was when that whole thing fell, and all of a sudden I wasn't the smartest guy in the room anymore financially, and I all of a sudden knew that I needed help. We were introduced to a leadership training system that really focused on true, proper biblical finances, not just again from a stay out of debt and sit and huddle in my house realm, and not from a finance everything to the moon, because that's how you build wealth, but somewhere in the middle that taught aversion to debt and actually becoming free, not only becoming debt free, but becoming wealthy, where your income isn't based on the work that you do, but you're able to leverage yourself out there. You're able to plug into the right information, the right systems, the right teams, and move forward. So to answer that question, yeah, my girls were really young at the time that we had a lot of these issues, and thankfully immediately after those issues, we were led to the people who had the results, and we were able to from them being very young, educate them and school them on proper finances. And my youngest, she's always we always did it whenever they got money coming in from doing odds and ends, extra chores, extra whatever, little jobs for other people around the church in the neighborhood. We sat them down with a budget immediately. It was there. 10% is the Lord's, that belongs to His, the first fruits of all of our increase. And then we had a strong recommendation of, after that 10%, you're going to take 40% and you're going to put it in a long-term savings account. And that is your asset building account. You're only going to use this, isn't to buy a car, this isn't to buy, nail polish or anything else, you might want down the road. Is that news to you guys? I'm not.
No, I
Right?
camera. I'm just letting the camera's like, oh no,
He's
no,
got a joke in there.
no
Yeah.
nail polish.
Yeah.
I had a feeling it was coming with that look, but yeah, but it's not to buy fun stuff. It's not to buy cars. It's not to buy anything else. It is strictly to buy assets that will cash flow to you, that will pay you back. And so even to this day, my youngest works for Hobby Lobby, and she started balancing her own books and stuff like that when she started getting a real paycheck coming in.
Hmm.
And to this day, she still holds to that model. She does her tithe of 10%, and then both of my girls have a little extra um, giving savings account or whatever. So if they see extra needs in the church or around the community, they want to tuck away so they have the money to be a blessing when they're called upon to be a blessing. But then also she takes that 40% still to this day. She's got a car, she's got insurance, she's got a cell phone. She got to pay for gas. We don't pay for anything. This is real life. She's a grown up. She needs to handle it. But even with all of that stuff, she takes 40% of her income and tosses it into an investment account. And with that, she funds her life insurance policy, and
Mm.
she is stacking and buying houses with us and land, and it's just like I said, if I had that information when I was their
Yeah.
age, I'd be dangerous.
I think it's so important. I mean, we have a passion here of helping that next generation, and with kids, the younger the better. Once they get a little too older, they're out of the house. We kind of lose some of that influence,
Yeah.
right? But if we could establish those good savings habits early, just like you're talking about now they're 19, they're out of high school, and they're still incorporating those lessons. So kudos to you, Jason.
Yeah.
And Jason, here's an interesting fact. I'm wondering if you didn't know that we've taken an effort where we've been interviewing some of our clients to really get a different perspective, or someone talking about from the other side of the screen. You are the first, I believe, that we've interviewed of Cameron's clients.
Hey.
Which you might be thinking, hey,
Mm.
aren't we? We're like 272. How come we haven't? What is Cameron hiding? So I have a few questions I've really been dying to
I
ask,
can't wait.
Please.
To,
like Cameron's
I
clients.
can't wait to hear
You
this.
know,
Have at it. I'll step
we have
back.
another one tomorrow. I'm saving another one,
Friday.
but I tell you, this one should be a real quick one, because just like you hear these rumors like of what's really going on, but unless you're really in the room, you really don't know. When Cameron's on the Zoom, now that they have those filters, does he have a filter that makes his skin? Because hey, there's no filters here, so you could just tell.
You're an
It's
idiot.
not the skin one, but I did one time catch him with the puppy ears and the little cute nose at the bottom of his
Uh,
face. But
okay,
other than
all
that, I
right,
haven't seen any filter
okay.
use. So
One myth. Okay, all right, okay. I got a couple more,
It's
but
not true. It's not
we're
true.
interviewing another one of his clients on Friday. But just so you know, I got a good one for that one. But in all seriousness, Jason, like you had mentioned that you had looked into, or you were doing some land flipping. You looked into some short term rentals, and then the slow flip.
correct.
And I know a lot of our clients, because we one of the beauties of what we have is the ability to bring all this information. And sometimes even Cameron and I, oh, that looks good. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. And we're spreading ourselves too thin. So I'm curious, how was your process in deciding which avenue to pursue? And what advice would you have to one of our listeners that are kind of maybe overwhelmed on some of the options there are to create some income?
Yeah, excellent question. I have had to, as you see, I'm recording from my day job office, and I work for a mid to larger size credit union, and it taxes a lot of my time, so I can't ever look at anything that is going to require me to have another part-time job anywhere else, because there's only two buckets that are left to draw out of. There's my you know 9 to 5, if only it were that short amount of work day, and then the rest of the time is my family, my faith time, stuff like that. And a long time ago, working in the construction fields and just killing myself on the hours just trying to pay the bills, I had to come to a decision of everything in my family and faith bucket as far as the time is concerned is a non-negotiable. Now there are some times where I'm at home and I'm researching properties and stuff like that, and I
Mhm.
do my best to involve my wife, involve my kids, and it's kind of just becomes a fun family atmosphere, being able to look at it. But any investment that I would look at, and I looked at the ATMs and stuff. For we had a guest on your team that seemed very promising, very profitable, and I've got a lot of notes and videos and stuff bookmarked for the future. Maybe if I can build a system that would have somebody do the legwork for me, but I always have to push that on one side. I always look at the two boxes of how much time is this going to take for me. Is it truly once I get the motor running, is it a passive income?
Mhm.
And then number two, what are my returns on that income? And then I've been able to, over the years, looking at the land investment and now looking at the slow flip investment, and see, man, are my dollars, forget about the time aspect, but are my dollars well spent putting it into this? Am I going to get back? Is this an extra drain on my money with not as much return? Or if I take that extra $10,000 or whatever, and I put more fuel into the tank of something that I know that is working, will that pay better returns? And I've been able to narrow the focus on a lot of my stuff, and whittle out side investments, and other ideas, e-commerce, all this other stuff that I was into. I've been able to whittle that away and say, hey, no, I need to be laser focused on the items that are producing the greatest results and not demanding as much of my time. So
Hmm.
it really helps you narrow, because yeah, you're right there. I've got that shiny object syndrome, right? There's always the latest greatest thing, the thing that promises the best return, the best results, and all this stuff. But I've had to use those rules to kind of focus myself down to make sure that I'm where I ought to be, financially, time wise, etc. So
And what's your experience been for you personally? Right, you talked about land flipping, transition to slow flips. How's the process gone for you?
I I think it's going fairly well. I've been able to, I previously with land flipping, I never took any type of an income, and I would just, every single time I had enough money in the account, I'd go buy another piece of property or multiple pieces of property, and then just kept turning and burning. Like I said, I started with 150 bucks, and have taken that $150 to purchase 28 properties. Now, yeah, I found the number on the sheet. 28 properties, have done 13 deals with them. I've got three pieces of property that are currently being marketed, and waiting for a buyer on those. And I've got three deals, a total of six chunks of property that are on an active payment plan, where I kind of became the bank, and they're financing, or I'm financing them, and they're paying me every month. Now, as I see the slow flip thing coming up, I'm starting to take it away, and also read a couple versions of the Profit First
Hmm.
book, and have really kind of narrowed down my finances. I'm like, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to keep just turning and burning until I've got this giant pile of money that I can't touch, or that I whatever? And so I've kind of put systems in place there, where now I'm taking 25% of all profit that's coming in after the piece of property, house, whatever, is paid off. Until then, we get out of debt as hard and as fast as we can, and then I'm reinvesting 75% back into that, so that theoretically it slowly funnels away from land into slow flips, and then the slow flips over time are paying for themselves, buying, and then eventually buying more slow flips, more houses, cash. Few a year, few a month, and then I can stack up a pretty good passive income on 25 to 50% of what those are bringing in. So
Jason, I want to go back to something that we talked about a minute ago, just to make a note here, is that having met with your daughters, and helping them set up the policies and the way that they've been using them, it's been really phenomenal. And I got to give you credit from one dad to another. These girls are dialed in.
Mm.
They've got the budget on point. They know exactly what they're spending each month. They know what is going out. They know what's coming in. They are farther along on budgeting and investing than I would say probably a large majority of the adults that come in to our office. So, man, we got to give you credit for that. So, well done, Jason.
well, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
Moving,
could I
moving. Go
interject
ahead.
one thing real
Yeah,
quick? I will
yeah.
say, it reminds me of a question a little bit ago, and kind of half in jest, what Anthony had asked about what it's like on the Zoom calls with Cameron. And so I've
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
referred. I've also brought, obviously, me and my wife, both of my daughters, but I've referred multiples, but at least two young men from my church who have purchased life insurance policies, as
Mm.
well as multitudes of people online, as I have interactions, as we coach people financially, and try to help, kind of pay forward what was given to us, and get other people out of debt, and on the road to financial freedom. And one thing that I hear from all of them who've gone through with it, especially these young men in my church, these guys come to Cameron with like, I've got this big pot of money, let me give it to you, and let's get this life insurance thing rolling. And Cameron almost like puts the brakes on him and says, no, 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 wait, we're going to understand this whole process first. And he'll take
Mhm.
multiple meetings with these gentlemen to make sure that they understand what's going on, that they're making an educated guess, that they're not just, to Cameron's credit, he's not just going for the quick sale of a life insurance policy or another client or whatever, but he's doing this in such a way that it is it's a win-win. Not only does he benefit from it, but it's more importantly, he's benefiting the client and making sure that they're making wise, sound decisions, and they're in the right spot financially, rather than just throwing money at a problem and expecting it to take care of itself. So kudos to you as well, Cameron. We appreciate how you've been handling everybody I've sent your way. So
Well done, Cam.
Thanks,
And
thanks. Thanks.
that is the approach we want to take here, because infinite banking is not for everybody, and it is a process that you do need to learn. The first step on learning would be getting on a discovery call. You talk with Cameron or I, and we're kind of see if this is a good fit and talk about the next steps. Jason, I was wondering, did anybody give you feedback of Cameron's filters of the dog ears?
none that they noticed or mentioned. Yeah, so
Okay, all right.
I wasn't privy to their conversations. So
Jason, I got a question for you, man. You've been doing infinite banking for a while now. So looking back at your path with infinite banking, what are some of the things that you've liked with infinite banking, and then some of the things that you haven't liked with infinite banking?
yeah, first off, the ability to so I did two policies when we first got started. One of them was the use of a PDA. Had a large chunk of savings and other investments that I was able to roll together, put it into the PDA that paid off one policy, and then I took another policy based on my budget, where I pay so much a month, and then that covers the policy. And I was I was number one thing I liked is I was preparing myself for it takes a lot of time to get it up and running. But I found that as I was able to max out the PUAs, the paid up additions, it wasn't very long before I'm like, oh, there's $1,000 there, or there's 2,000, there's 5,000, there's 10,000, and I'm able to take that out and completely eliminate credit and consumer debt. And then I'm able to take a chunk out and go buy my wife a vehicle when she needed it, and just continuing that to pay back to myself, to not rob from my own store, but continue to pay back to myself. And so that was one of the things I like, is as I do that, and as I had the flow of money going, it just seems to pick up speed, if it were. And then not only in my personal budget, where I'm not paying the interest out to the big banks and stuff, but paying them back to my own bank, my own family bank, it seems to pick up speed and help out. But one on the negative side, one thing I really don't care for is that the whole idea of a mech line.
Yeah,
My
get it.
my thing is like, if I've got the money, I've already paid taxes on this money.
Yeah.
Uh, Let me loose, man. Let me do what I want to do with it. Let me put whatever I can into it, and let's take this thing as far as we can. But yeah, I understand there's ways to be smart about, and get up against that line without going over and turning anything into a taxable event. But yeah, I think that would be the only downside I could probably think of so far.
Jason, I'd be curious, how was your stress level and maybe your outlook on your financial future? Like when you were talking with these uh, financial planners or traditional financial planners versus incorporating infinite banking, what were some of the difference in your outlook and your view on your financial success?
Wow. Well, from early on, when I first started meeting with financial planners and stuff, I was young, newly married, brand new kids, and scraping together everything we could, working construction, way too many hours, and stressed about where every dollar was going, because I had bad advice. I had been accumulating so much debt already, so that the thought of investing and doing anything extra was mind-boggling. And then the pit in your stomach when it goes negative is something I don't wish on anybody. But then fast forward a few years and having inserted in that timeline the proper financial education, by the time we came to an infinite baking model, um, once the lights turned on and and I saw kind of potential of what it can do, it just became exciting. I couldn't wait. I couldn't find money fast enough to throw into that initial pot. And yeah, now again I'm like, and where else can I find money to max out my PUAs, or where else can I find a giant truckload of money somewhere that I can just buy another one, or move on to the next option on the board. So definitely different outlook for sure.
Great, man. Thanks for sharing. What would you say to somebody that might be on the fence of whether they should be looking at IBC or not?
Oh man, I mean, take the $20 and the maybe an hour or so of your time, and read Nelson Nash's book, the first one, Becoming Your Own Banker, and read it and reread it and reread it. And then, as you're reading this, what I tell everybody I recommend the IBC system too is grab that book, read it, and read it with a notepad and write down all your questions. And then when you have a big old notepad full of questions, hop on a call with these guys and let them answer the questions. Let them help you with any misconceptions, or get a personalized plan for your financial house. Make sure that it's the right thing for you guys. And just making sure that people are in that mindset of there's hope, there's a way to do things that is not only wise financially, but biblically, and all these things that are of concern when it comes to building a financial house. So, but yeah, dig into the information from someone like Nash, who had the fruit on the tree. He wasn't just writing from a theoretical standpoint to sell books while he posed with supermodels and on his private yacht for the infomercial to sell you a $3.99 course in the middle of the night. But no, he had fruit on the tree. And then hearing you guys, obviously never having a chance to meet Mr. Nash this side of glory, but hearing you guys talk about him and your relationship with him, and watching him in his private life, you could tell that he practiced what he preached too. It wasn't just something theoretical. He wasn't trying to make a quick sale. The guy had fruit on the tree. So I would tell anybody looking at infinite banking for any reason, whether it's for future financial planning or digging out of a hole that they're in now, start with that book, learn that book, and plug in with Cameron and Anthony to get your questions answered for sure.
Awesome.
Jason, thanks, man. Really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story. And our hope is that it speaks to a lot of people out there that might find themselves kind of in that situation you were many years ago. But again, man, really appreciate you coming on and sharing.
Yeah, thank you very much, and look forward to, if I don't know if you guys are going to post notes or whatever. I think I provide you with a cell phone and an email address. But if people want to make contact and learn about slow flipping, learn about infinite banking, anything I can help with, or even personal family finances, we feel an obligation to pay it forward and to be a blessing where we were blessed. And if we can help folks out with their personal finances and sit down and work out a budget and pass along some of the skills that we've learned, we're more than happy to do it.
You're a good man, Jason.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Great offer.
Go make it a fantastic day.
Take care.
Let's see it.
If you like this video, I know you'll like this one. And if you want to learn how investors use infinite banking to increase their returns and lower their taxes, check this out. And if you have some questions and want to see if infinite banking is for you, hop on a discovery call with us. Link for that will be in the description.